Okay, so first of all, thank you all for being here with us today. We know that it's the end of June, summer is approaching, and for Italians has already widely approached. Um, anyway, we believe that this webinar will be peculiarly interesting because it touches on one of the most interesting aspects of participatory democracy, and yet one of the least discussed about. So how is participatory democracy funded? As you know, Eumans is a pan-European movement by popular initiative, which means that Eumans tries to advocate and enhance civic participation at the pan-European level, connecting either local communities doing participation in Europe, or trying to organize pan-European events gathering citizens from all over the continent to decide together through the participatory and deliberative democracy tools. Anyway, of course, this is not done for free. This requires resources that are not necessarily only economic. They can be resources in time. The organization of such events is definitely complicated, especially when you want to involve different audiences and different kind of citizens. But at the same time, usually organizations that deal with participatory democracy don't have huge funding flows. And we believe it would be interesting for not only us as an organization as Humans, but in general for any of the citizens that are supporting our activities to know a bit more about, first and foremost, how Humans also gets funded, and in general, how civil society organizations find the resources and the economic assets to do their job and to try and influence positively democracy. Therefore, I'm super happy to host the webinar today. I would kindly ask Stefano to move to the second slide if possible. And I will leave Stefano the floor to explain a bit more about why we are holding webinars within the Civic Artificial Intelligence campaign. Let me just introduce myself for those who don't know me. My name is Francesco Vecchi. I'm the coordinator of the Civic Artificial Intelligence campaign on behalf of Eumans, with which we are advocating not only for the use of AI to enhance the civic participation, but more broadly to create a properly democratic digital infrastructure to support digital democracy. Within this framework, we have already organized a few webinars. There are still another couple, and these initiatives are supposed to be something in between sharing knowledge and also training for our activists. But I'm sure that Stefano Corona will give you further information about that. So Stefano, please take the floor.
Thank you, Francesco. I'm Stefano Corona. I'm working with Francesco in the Civic AI campaign in the framework of the Eumans initiatives for a more participating democracy in the European Union. Today's webinar is one of the 6 webinars we have organized taking place until October on a monthly basis. This is the last one before the summer break. And this is the 4th webinar. I invite all the audience, the people here in the webinar to learn more about the previous webinar, also by scanning the QR code on the side of the slide. This webinar is intended to discuss topics related to our campaign, not only to our campaign, but also to, let's say, raise the public awareness of the impact of the digitalization on the future of our democracy in Europe. In particular, this webinar, How Does Participatory Democracy Get Funded? The title concerns the different source of funding for the European Civic Tech and Civil Society Association. These are, in our opinion, the real enablers of the participatory democracy in this digitalization era. And the question, the essential question of this webinar is, how can a civic tech have access to financing, to stable source of financing? There are in this field there are many actors, institution first and foremost, and then foundations, grassroots movements that are supposed to work together to strengthen democracy in Europe. But the availability of source of funding, stable and reliable source of funding is essential for that. Availability of, for example, research grants, fellowship, and above all, protective measures by the institutions it's a way to allow civic tech, foundation, institution, grassroots movements, so the actors involved in strengthening and protecting our democracy, to build together rather than struggle on their own. Having a look at today's agenda, we will start by setting the stage with Antonio Alaya, with a survey thought for you. After that, we will have Francesco will introduce and moderate the panel with our two experts, Isaac Pozo from the Fundación Alternativas, and Michelangelo Gili, an expert of fundraising. Welcome, Isaac. Welcome, Michelangelo. Finally, there will be the Q&A section, moderated also by Francesco. And then Francesco will also make the conclusion of this webinar. That's it. So I'm very pleased to leave the floor to Antonio for his icebreaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefano. Thank you, Eumans, all, for letting me participate to this Civic AI campaign. This is the fourth webinar, and then today we are gonna do the same game we do every time. So I'll share my screen and we'll see. Okay. As I said, thanks again. Let's do a very, very, very fast game in order to test our opinion about this topic we're going to talk about this evening, and to have a little bit of data to discuss during this webinar. We focused on the actors behind the fundings of civic campaign, and mostly on NGOs and the direct funding of citizens. So let's start. I suggest you to have this to scan this code. Or if there are any problems, I can send the link in the chat, but I suggest you to use this code in order to do the test via mobile while we are looking at questions together and we are talking all together. So no, there are no big rules for these games. There are 4 very easy questions, and I leave you about 40 seconds for each questions, and I'll tell you the start and the end. So let's go directly to the first one. When you think of a civic project, who do you assume pay for it? It can be local or national government. It could be private foundations. It could be EU institutions. So of course there are national government, but we also make this distinction between public as intended as local and national and EU institution, even if they are both public. And honestly, I have no idea if you don't have any idea. In fact, 5 seconds. Okay, I see we are almost done. I leave just a few seconds because I see people are still answering. Okay, let's go quickly. Okay, when you think of civic project, we have a majority of answer on local and national government and EU institution. Very few on private, just one on private foundation, and zero on honestly, I have no idea. Well, actually, by the data we found, the European Civic engine works through about 175,000 philanthropic foundations that spend about around 76 billion each year, while citizens still assume civic projects are mostly state-funded. Um, of course, we are going to talk again about foundations, NGOs, and private foundations. So let's move to the second questions. Now we have made the first questions about who you think actually found this kind of initiative. But now let's talk about who you think should primarily found participatory democracy projects. So who do you think should found this kind of campaigns and initiatives? Again, we have public institution and government as intended as both national, local, and EU organs. Private foundation as in NGOs and private foundation, and citizen directly via crowdfunding and donations. Or you can also think about no single actor should dominate as a mix of them. I leave just 10 seconds. We are almost there. Okay, I'll go fast forward then. The majority of answers falls above the no single actor should dominate. So in this audience, we think that there should be a mix of them. And the second best option is public institution and government, and then zero private foundations, and someone thinks about citizen directly. While once again, talking about again the NGOs, they are actually the one of the most spending categories out there. As we said, there are about in Europe there are about 175,000, over 76 billion euro spent each year, but and also the combined assets it's 560 billion as a capital base. So it says that the majority of money intended for this kind of initiatives, it's all owned and managed by again NGOs, private NGOs. Let's move to the next question. Have you ever personally donated to or financially supported a civic or community cause? I don't know why there's a problem with the answer. I don't see the... Sorry, but there should be a problem with the options. I don't know why.
Never mind. Maybe we can ask participants if any of them has ever donated or financially supported a civic or community cause. You can also just raise your hand, and then we see. You raise your hand if you did, of course.
Yeah, so I don't know why, but there's a bug, so I cannot see the answer. But we can see that option 1 is yes, option 2 is no. So option 1 is for yes, option 2 is for no, option 3 is for I don't want to answer. So let's do it this way. Sorry for the problem, but I tried 5 minutes early and it was perfectly fine. And I don't know, so just few seconds. So option 1 is yes, option 2 is no, option 3 is I don't want to answer. So let's move quickly. Yes, there are people who personally donated or financially supported a civic community cause. And we have about 4 billion raised directly in 2024 by citizens across the 21 member states and via 181 EU crowdfunding platforms. And so civic and community causes are among the fast growing categories as in the latest ESMA crowdfunding market report of 2025. Let's move to the last questions. How transparent do you think foundations are about how they decide what civic project to fund? So it's very transparent, somewhat transparent, not very transparent, or you have no idea. Let's wait another 20 seconds, then we'll move on. Okay. Let's see. Answers arrived. So, not very transparent. So, the trust in the NGO is very high, as we can see in the Edelman Trust Barometer of 2025 and the ACA Special Report on 2025. The trust is high, while the transparency is not. The NGOs are Europe's most trusted institution, while at the same time, the EU civil society was declared too opaque in May 2025. So the trust is high, but they did very poorly on the transparency about who actually there's behind the funding of the NGOs, while people still trust very highly this kind of organizations. So a lot can be done in order to balance the trust with the transparency in this kind of category. So thank you very much. The questions are finished, and sorry again for a problem for the first questions.
No worries, Antonio. I think that it worked out eventually,
hope
and thank you very much for the icebreaker. Before leaving the floor to the speakers, I would like to ask the audience if you have any questions. I found it very interesting, the very last slide, that being trusted also means that probably there are less transparency requirements for your kind of organization. And therefore, probably something more can be done, not only because we are part of the civil society organizations that look for funding. I would like to have more transparency on how we could get those fundings or why we don't get those fundings. But in general, probably this area has not been covered so much by investigative journalism or any other kind of analysis, and probably this has affected the level of transparency. Yet, of course, something very interesting that I remember from the Mozilla Festival last year was that basically independent experts and or civil society leaders are considered among the most trusted figure in the political debate, way more than politicians, way more than experts from private companies, and sometimes way more even than people from the bureaucracy of governments. And this is very well reflected in the visuals of the civil society organization. Then, if no one has any questions for Antonio, or any comments to make on what the data that Antonio just shared with us. And I'm pleased to welcome the two speakers. As Stefano was saying, this webinar is supposed to touch something which lies at the provides the very ground for any civic participation initiative. But more specifically, we would like to tell two slightly different stories. So Isaac Pozo, from project manager from Fundación Alternativas, will give us a presentation on what are the traditional ways of funding. For example, public administration tenders, direct funding from governments, or other forms of funding. Fundación Alternativa is a think tank, but I guess that Isaac will delve deeper into how they work in this field later on. Whereas Michelangelo, who's a senior fundraiser, he has almost always worked for civil society organization, or at least he has built a strong experience on fundraising for civil society organization, and he has developed a very innovative approach. So since we're speaking of civic artificial intelligence with humans, it's not just artificial intelligence for civic participation, but it's also artificial intelligence to support civic participation. And when he has been using a lot of that to support either Eumans or other organizations to find the resources they needed. And therefore, I thought this dialogue could be extremely interesting for our participants and in general people in the audience to see, maybe to just get some ideas on how they could fund a participatory or just a civil society initiative of their own. With that said, and without further ado, I am happy to leave the floor to Isaac Pozo to start the presentation. Isaac, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, as Francesco has said, I'm Isaac Pozo. I'm the project manager in Fundación Alternativas. That is a think tank with 29 years or 30 years of existence. I have some slides, but it's just basically I'm going to tell you how you survive 30 years working for democracy in a really changing environment, with government from one side, from the other, with crisis, with no crisis. So this is like the guide of the old-fashioned way of doing advocacy. So I'm also a member of Eumans, and I also like how things are done here, but sometimes you have to know the basis just to do it. So if I can share, let me know if you can see it.
We can.
All right, so let me put the view 1 second. So if I put it here, you can see it, right?
Perfect.
Perfect. So basically what I was telling you, I'm going to just interrupt me at any time if you find something, but just going to tell you really quick. We are the biggest progressive think tank in Spanish for the world. So basically we work for Spain and Latin America, and we work with the European Union. As I was saying, we were born in 1997, so we have passed a couple of crises already. So and we survived. We have passed governance from one side for the other, and we survived. Just some figures. I'm going to go really through really quick. This is the classical slides for presentation, but again, I'm not going to be the classical thing. But we make partnership with many people. We produce 8 huge reports in Spanish and English every year. We publish more than 1,000 books. So we've been there. Where do we work at? Foreign policy and European Union, public policies, culture and communication, sustainability, and what they call progressive studies. That is a form of grants for young researchers that want to do public policy. Right. So who pays us? Let's say, and let's be clear. You need money for doing. So having ideas is good, but you need to have a boring man just making money. So we are paid by the Spanish government and by all levels of administration, from ministries to regional governments or local governments, and we do things like cultural industries forum. We do it every year since 10 years ago. We just join everyone in the cultural industries business around. That's it. Every year we just get 30,000 euros more or less. So, by the way, about transparency, all our information is public, is on the web, so I'm not disclosing anything. And I think it's one of the ways of working with, when you work with governments, you should be really transparent just to avoid that saying that you are pointed in one or the other direction. Second thing, Europe, Horizon Europe. If you ever touch from some part of the European Union and you want to get money, you probably will find this Horizon Europe. Horizon Europe is the program of research and implementation for the European Union, and they have a lot of pillars and clusters and everything. This is just a quick introduction, so just get into this. I can share this slide, but it's basically a lot of programs specifically for one or other things. In your case, if you look on Pillar 2, global challenges, third pillar is civil security for society, and 4 is digital industry and space. In both of them, anything on digital democracy can fit. For example, now, and this is for September, there's a specific call for democracy in Horizon that they are from something like post-conflict democracy until use of AI, fake news, etc., etc. There's some opportunities open now, but there are more. There's one program called CERP, Citizen Equality, Rights and Values Program, and then you have the four pillars where it's based: equal rights and gender, citizen engagement and participation. Well, Daphne maybe not, so fight against violence and final union values. So you can apply to either union values or citizen engagement and participation. Another one, and I'm going really quick, I want just to give you a taste of what can be done. Erasmus Plus. If you know the Erasmus grants, and if you have been in Erasmus, there's a specific part of Erasmus program called Erasmus Plus that is for training people in their countries, and is to organize training sessions for people, right? So you can train people in all these matters. So that again, you have 3 and 4, so digital transformation and participation in democratic life. But there are many others, and I just have cherry picked whatever can be used for that. Interreg, that's for regions, that's for working with close regions. A Digital Europe program for working digitalization. Creative Europe for anything related to culture and digitalization. Well, life is for environment, etc., etc. So you tell me, all right, this is so crazy. Where do I look for that? All right. So let me introduce your next favorite page, or your next fundraiser favorite page. That is the EU funding and tenders portal. If you write that, or if you write in Google participant portal, then you access there. And there you have all the items open right now, and it's going to be open in the next. For example, if you go to the citizens, equality, rights, and values, now you have 199 calls open. And so you have to go inside of each of them and check what is it and what it requires. It normally, and it's a general rule, it can vary. It normally requires 3 countries. So 3 organizations from the 3 different countries. That's the main requirement. The rest is you should go one by one. Right, so that's Europe. But also Europe has the parliament. So not many people know that the European Parliament is also have program for democracy, and they're asking you to do things. And this is a real work that I did. It was doing policy recommendation for media literacy for democracy, basically how to deal with fake news. So the Parliament, from time to time, they open calls for civil organizations, just to tell them how to do policies. Again, so politicians will decide some policies, but they will ask for civil society organizations to give their ammunition on how to build it. And the only requirement here is you don't have to be partisan. So your recommendation have to be neutral inside of the values of European Union. And finally, yes, we do work with private companies, and if you know some of them, probably most of are Spanish, but those are all the bad guys. So banks, petrol companies, telecom, electricity, and so for example, but these people work, and these people work in that. And so let me just tell you about one project that we made with Google. It was called Digitaliz Art EU, and this is because although Google is so bad for many things, it's a provider of culture, and it's a provider of digital culture. So they make a program just for creators of video creators. We're able to use Google platforms. They're going to use it, and this is something that probably we could discuss. But so we should not tell them not to do it. This is again, we're doing policy, public policy in Instagram, that is from Meta. We're protesting in Twitter, that is from X. So you have to deal with them, and they are not. There's not white or black, so you have to deal with them. And finally, well, basically, and this is our recommendation, just talk with everyone, make networks, just talk with everyone, and produce projects.
Yes,
That's it.
Isaac. Okay, that's it. Okay, I was just gonna ask a question, but you finished the presentation before I could jump in. Thank you very much, Isaac. I think it was a very good overview. Would you like to go back a second on the funding from private organizations, especially the slide on Google? Because of course, as you know, Eumans is a political movement, even though we don't run for elections. And sometimes with political movements, it's harder to motivate to your base that you can get funding for specific projects also from private organizations. I don't know if you would like to dive a bit deeper into what you said, like not only to talk with these people, because sometimes they do have expertise in specific fields, but what do you think is the recipe to, harness the most out of a partnership with one of these guys without necessarily being completely dependent on their money and therefore being blackmailed politically at some point?
Well, first, just think that these organizations are so huge and they have different departments, different ways, and also they are not either good or bad. So they're just doing. They can have business that are bad, but come on, guys, we're connected in Zoom. Zoom is working on the AWS services. We have to work with them. Although you can put your manifestos in Mammut on everything, if you want to reach to people, you have to work with these people just to make a fair use of their platforms. The idea of having a totally free non-use is great, but you have to be where people is.
Yes, I know that Marco completely agrees with that, at least. That, of course, I mean, being the coordinator of the campaign on civic artificial intelligence, we are also reflecting on how to be less dependent on some of the big platforms, some of the big tech companies' platforms. Yet, of course, we are also a pan-European movement popular initiative, and usually people can be found exactly on the most renowned platforms, and striking the balance between advocating for what you believe in and also getting the political momentum where you can find it. It's always a really, really difficult balance to strike, as much as it's a difficult balance to strike between getting funding for participatory democracy from private companies or other things like this. I don't know if you
I
would
may
like
say
to.
something,
Sure,
they
please.
are good and bad. Again, they are not good and bad, but they are better platforms or less bad platforms. So YouTube in general is not as bad as can be Instagram, or even worse as can be Twitter. So, I mean, of course, you can use Daily Motion, that is even better. You can use any free video, but you have to have a balance in between people you can reach and things that doesn't sting too much. So let's say stay in the middle.
And I guess that the whole point of it is that it's you deciding what are the terms and the conditions of a potential contract with them and not the other way around. That's, of course, another precondition working with them. Thank you very much, Isaac. So I guess that there will be also plenty of questions for you later on, but now I would like to leave the floor to Michelangelo. Again, I repeat, Michelangelo, he's an expert fundraiser. He has been working for a lot of organizations, mainly in Italy, but now he's also working for Eumans. He supported the fundraising activities of Associazione Luca Coscioni for Who Knows It. He's also been involved in other organizations in between politics and civil society in Italy. And he has recently presented his work at a fundraising festival in Rimini. This just to witness that he is doing an amazing work on this, and I think that he will have plenty of super interesting insights to share with all of you tonight. So please, Michelangelo, take the floor.
Thank you, Francesco, for the invitation. You see the slide? Yes, it's okay. It's okay with the slide. Yes, perfect. Hello, everyone. And okay, I start with saying we don't have time to explain how fundraising works because it would take hundreds of hours. But today I want to share a very practical use of AI in a daily work, how we can use AI to find and research funders faster, because the title of this presentation is Find Your Funders, not Find Your Money or Find Your Fund. And there's a reason for that, because artificial intelligence contribution to fundraising, in my opinion, is focused on only one part of the job, especially on research, on prospecting, summarizing, data analysis, and administration too, obviously. And AI helps you find funders. It does not raise the money for you, okay? Because if you want to raise money, you have to build trust between you and your prospect, between you and another person and other people, other organization. And that is something only you can do as a human, okay? That's very important. And this slide probably contains the most important message of the entire presentation, because AI can research funders, summarizing, etc., but cannot build trust between people and cannot create authentic relationships, or cannot tell our story with conviction or make someone believe in our mission, because those things remain human. And the core idea of this keynote is exactly this one. AI in fundraising is a support for human action and not a substitute for it. And in fundraising, the human action is one specific thing, okay? I say another time, building a relationship between people. So when I talk about AI in fundraising, I don't think about replacing people. I think about saving time, so we can spend more of this time on the part that really matter, okay? The relationship. And before approaching a potential funder, we spend, as a fundraiser, a lot of time trying to understand them. For instance, we read their website or annual reports, press article, social media, previous grants, and also strategic priorities. And sometimes we spend several hours researching a single foundation or a single company or a single major donor. And this work, it's necessary, but it's also very time consuming, and AI can help us to reduce that research time dramatically. And the other important point is the open source intelligence, that AI is not using secret information, but use open source intelligence, because most of what AI finds comes from public sources, okay, like website, report, etc., And the value of AI is not that it creates information, okay? The value is that it can collect, connect, and summarize a lot of data, a lot of information much faster than we can do manually. It's a very good help to our work. And okay, I will try to give to you 3 prompts or 3 skills. Maybe later I send it to Francesco, that we can put it on side the website in the material area. And okay, let's start with the first one. The first one is that is the scout the field, the whole field, okay? Instead of opening dozens or of tabs in your browser, okay, and searching manually, etc., you can ask artificial intelligence direct questions, and AI finds the funder that it fit your work and build for example, a short list of prospects. For example, an example of prompts: which foundation in Europe have funded projects similar to our project in the last 3 years? And in 1, 2, 3 minutes, we get a first short list of possible funders, including grant size, priorities, deadline, etc., etc. Of course, it's very important that we have to verify this information, but the big help is that we no longer start from zero, okay, to open dozens of tabs on the browser. And sorry, the second one. And okay, we have identified our prospect, and now we identify an interesting funder, and we pick this founder and go deeper with AI. Okay, AI pulls the public records into a single file. For example, what they fund, how much they fund, and why they care about your mission, your organization, your projects. A profile that would normally require reading many documents, okay, can often be summarized in like few minutes. And again, artificial intelligence is not replacing our judgment, okay? It is helping us organize information more efficiently. That's another very important thing. And the third part, the last one, to conclude this process, is fundraising is about relationship, and a warm introduction almost works better than a cold email, okay? A cold first contact. So here is one of the most useful thing AI can do. You could give it your own contact list, your board, your colleagues, your wider network, no private information, please. And you ask it a simple question. For example, who here has a connection to the funder we want to reach? And the AI compare your contacts with what it can find about that funder, and also points you to the person who could open the door for you, okay, the decision maker. And it can even draft that first introduction message, like obviously a draft. And the key point, in my opinion, is this: artificial intelligence is not I say that another time, but it's very important. AI is not building the relationship for you. It's helping you to find the right way in and preparing you for the conversation. Okay, the relationship itself is still yours to build. Okay, with the help of this information. And okay, this is 3 prompts that work simultaneously. Okay, and for bot questions, agent issues, etc. Okay, we could say that a lot of people today use chatbots. Okay, inside a chatbot, we ask a question, receive an answer, and continue inside the conversation. But we are now entering in the age of AI agents, because a chatbot answers a question, but an AI agent receives a task. It's different. And for example, instead of asking 10 different questions, or the 3 questions that we saw, we can give an agent a single task, like, okay, identify potential funders, compare them, prepare profiles, and suggest priorities. Okay, and I believe, especially in fundraising sector, this transition from chatbots to agents will become very, very important the next time, I think. And okay, if we look to the entire fundraising process, AI can support the first stages very well, not the last one, not the ask one. AI can help us to identify opportunities, to research funders, help us to prepare outreach, but in final step, building the relationship and making the ask remains entirely human. And honestly, I think that is exactly how it should be. And to go to the conclusion, the good news for you is that you don't need a lot of experience with software engineering or development because most of us can already start with the tools we have access to today. We can begin with a simple chatbot and gradually, for example, explore more advanced tool and AI agents too. The important thing is simply to start and experimenting. I think that Claude is the strongest agentic AI in this moment, in this period. But you can use other models too, but I find them less capable in many of areas that matter for most for for this work, especially in agentic research and inside a sector like fundraising. It's very, very important to build agents to find more funders. And I would like to finish with these 3 ideas. First, AI speeds up the slowest part, the most annoying part, the research. The second, you don't need to wait for perfect tools because you can start today with a simple chatbot and build in the future your own tool with artificial intelligence too. And third, the time saved with AI should always be invested in people because fundraising, another time, remains and will always remain a human activity. Okay, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michelangelo. I think it was super interesting, and I definitely agree with that in general. Of course, I'm also using a lot of AI tools for my daily work, but what I can tell is that we use it to reduce the time spent on things that will prevent you to spend more time to interact with people, building a community, building relationships, as you say, or in general, it will prevent you to reflect critically in a more creative way into processes. So like that if you have to spend the whole day just writing a report and you don't have time to think of a new strategy or think of how to communicate something in a different way. And at the end of the day, the AI, at least how I see it applied in Eumans, is not reducing jobs. In fact, it is enhancing the jobs and enhancing the capabilities of any specific worker. But I have I would have a question for you, and then also a question for Isaac before the opening up the floor for Q&A from the audience. The first question for you is that your presentation focused a lot on the fundraiser perspective. So how to use AI as a fundraiser to find, how can I say, potential big donors, let's say. But how can you use AI to reach out to smaller donors? Like, how can you use AI to make better your contacts with citizens or with the supporters of the movement? Do you see that even there AI has a role? Because, for example, what I believe is once you create a strategy, maybe in your own language, then an agent can help you translate it into multiple languages and therefore probably get access to more people that would not necessarily speak English. And this is one of the promises of AI, for example, in participatory democracy, making democracy accessible in your own natural language, but while connecting you with people that are not necessarily speaking your language. And in general, I don't know if you would like to complement a bit what you said with remarks on how to use AI to reach out to normal people, not necessarily people that are working for wider organizations specialized in funding these kind of initiatives?
It's a very long and complex question. No, okay, regarding small donors, I don't think that AI can support a lot our work because, as you know, the work with small donors, it's based on relationship and also marketing issues. Okay, you have to collect the data of people and build a relationship with some marketing tools or some other things. It's very complicated, and but AI could be very useful in major donor prospecting. Okay, because a major donor is public person the most of times, and usually a public person is, but I think that the AI can collect some information about that people and could help us to make a good ask and find connection between you or another person inside your organization, or I don't know, another foundation that has founded you during the past, etc., etc. But with the small donor like us, okay, we are small donors too. It's very complicated because inside the web doesn't have a lot of information about us, okay? And the AI cannot scrape our private information, obviously.
No, of course. Of course, something might be different if, as an organization, you gather a lot of data on how your supporters react to fundraising calls or fundraising asks. But I totally see that the point is still AI works better if you have a lot of data that can train the agent or on which the agent can work to deliver an output. So yes. And if I may, I would go back to Isaac, asking a very similar question. So we spoke a lot about AI, and you mentioned public tenders, governmental open calls, and usually to write a project to get those kind of tenders is a definitely hard job. And not only because oftentimes if you work with international institutions, you have to write the project in English, but even writing a project in your own language requires a lot of technical knowledge, and sometimes structuring project proposal is not the most accessible thing anyone can do. It requires a lot of professionalism, of course, but on the other hand, do you think that AI could help also in that regard, or AI could help also in traditional fund? Because something that I know, for instance, is that the European Union sets like a threshold of AI-generated content that you can put into the specific projects you're submitting, even when they are projects to develop AI, to develop AI programs or to foster the AI development in Europe. And therefore, I would like to ask you, do you think that there is more to be done here, either from the writing of the projects or the evaluation of the projects?
So first, take your donor, the organization you apply. If in the case that they say no AI is allowed, and you're out of the process because of using it. That's the first big disclaimer. There's rules on how much can be written by AI and how much the text is made by AI, but just think that in the end, it's going to be read by a person, and persons don't react really well when they're treated as machines. So it's really good to use the AI for research. But please, and I'm a reviewer also of projects, don't send me a text that has been produced by a machine, because I will not react the same. So if you use, and I will elaborate this, but if you use AI, use it for research, use it for making a resume, but then write it as a human. So if you pretend to change things in humans, don't send the other people the problem. So if you send me a text with bullet points, with parts in black, I knew that it's not you, the one that made it. And now I will tell you, you can train the AI, and if you use Claude, for example, you can train the AI to work in your voice. I just leave it there.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, I
Yes,
really wanted to hear.
it's better to make a lot of mistakes instead to write the perfect email. You know that because people see that you are human and not an artificial intelligence.
No, yes, I totally see it. In fact, you know that there are some, someone developed some software, AI software, in order to create human-like mistakes on your human AI-generated text. So we are getting to that level. It's super interesting. Anyway, I would like to open the floor now to questions from the audience. I see that Stefano has already raised his hand, but I invite all of you to either raise your hand and ask a direct question to our speakers or to write a question in the chat and we can read it out loud if for any reasons you cannot speak or you don't want to take the floor openly. So please, Stefano, take the floor.
First of all, thank you to our speakers. Their presentation were very, very interesting to me. I would like to ask to Michelangelo about, I'm curious about the results of this AI-based activity of fundraising compared to the previous way you try to collect money from these big donors. If I'm not mistaken, you are the fundraiser of the Associazione Luca Coscione, right? Okay, this is the first question. The second one, assuming that the private foundation are key actors for funding civil society association and so on. How you establish relations with these private foundations so that they have big money, asking only to provide you grants or also to set up partnership in some projects, specific projects. Thank you.
Both question for me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, Francesco, are you saying something? Because you're muted.
Am I muted?
No, okay, not
Yeah,
now.
am I muted now? Okay. No, I just wanted to say that probably Stefano refers to, when he speaks of private foundations, he refers to foundations such as, I don't know, Open Society or Bertelsmann or, you know, this kind of Mozilla Foundation, these kind of foundations that are definitely huge in terms of capital, yet with already like a participatory or civil society inclination. And so we're not referring to private companies that create foundations, but we are referring to other kinds of actors.
Exactly.
Okay, in major donor work previously, was much slower without artificial intelligence because we had to search for a lot of information inside public databases and to read some press news about people and artificial intelligence help a lot to do these jobs more quickly, but only these jobs because the time to build a relationship is very, very long. Sometimes, like, I don't know, 3, 4 years, maybe, to collect a donation from a major donor. It's very complicated. It's very time consuming. And about foundation, okay, I'm not very focused on foundation because I'm focused on small donor, major donor, and also companies. But also in side foundation, you have to find the point person, okay, the decision maker, and talk with him or her because you have to build a relationship with that point person. Okay, it's your main goal to do that.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes, because foundation and companies are like people, not very different. Because
Everything is
inside a foundation and inside company works people.
It's a problem it's a key problem to approach in the right way the foundation. For example, in Eumans, we try to approach Bertelsmann Foundation, the foundation very focused on the enhancement of the democracy at the European level. But until now, we didn't receive. We wrote an email, but until now we didn't receive any answer. So it's a problem. And because we know that establish a relationship with the foundation like Bertelsmann or other foundations like that, it would be important for our initiative to support our initiatives. But maybe Isaac has something to do on that.
Yes. So, for example, in the case of Bertelsmann, that you will say, well, basically follow the rules. So they open calls from time to time. They have channels for approaching them. They have yearly objectives or focusing points, or although it's really good just to go and now this is my campaign and I want it. So you have to see if both are in the same level. So just the only advice is just, although it's really good, try to follow the normal procedures at first, and then if you found them in any conference, of course, jump on them, try to get an appointment, a call, or whatever, and then you jump around.
Okay.
See that Barbara shared a question in the chat. If you want, I can read it out, Barbara, or otherwise you can take the floor. But again, if you prefer me to read it out, please.
Can you hear
Please,
me?
Yes, of course we can.
Yes. Okay, I will read it. It's quite long, sorry. But my idea is, okay, there is always a problem of neutrality when you get funds for your participatory democracy project, because on the one hand, if you get public funding, as Isaac was telling us, as far as I understand, the rules are quite strict. And I wonder whether you may be under the influence of public officials who, of course, may be interested that you follow a certain agenda and you may not be so free to implement your project. And on the other hand, if you go to private grants from foundations, you may be anyway under the bias or the preferences of private donors. So my question is, what is the best solution to be guaranteed a certain freedom of course, I understand that there may be a certain extent of freedom, not 100%, but freedom to implement your own project without being subject to bias or external influence from donors.
So I answer. Okay, so basically, yes, of course. I mean, for example, if you talk about European Union, they will talk about democracy in the sense that we understand democracy in European Union. So equal rights, so a certain type of liberal ideas of democracy, liberal in the English concept, not in the American one. If you apply to American foundation, it will be with their own rules, but within that, I mean, you will not apply to a grant of a Chinese foundation, but it can happen. So you have to know who you're talking with, and inside of that borders of that lines, you can move and adapt to you. So the first thing that you have to see if you are in aligned with your donor. And in the case of foundations, well, I think it's the same. I'm sorry to be the boring one, but somebody was mentioning Bertelsmann before. Bertelsmann is a foundation from a family, from a Hmong family, that they want to influence in policies. So I mean, they are clear on that, and they publish, and the idea is they believe in democracy, and they have a lot of things, but behind that foundation is one of the richest families of Europe. No problem on that. So you have to be, if you're aligned with them, and if not, you decide not to work with them.
Yes, exactly. And if I may say, the whole point is not being completely dependent on one founder or one organization. So as long as you have a diversity of a diversified portfolio of people that finance what you're doing, then there is no risk of receiving strong influence. And again, there is another point that sometimes even public administrations forget. What in English, there is this term procurement, especially for public administration. So whenever public administration cannot deliver something, they pay someone else, may it be either a consortium or just a private actor, to deliver a service or whatever. But in the procurement rules, in the procurement contract, let's say that the public administration can set up very binding rules on how the service must be delivered, even though it is delivered by other actors. And here again, even though we cannot say that a movement like Eumans, for instance, can do procurement, but clearly we can have the same approach. So, for example, yes, we want to run a project, and so we reach out to organizations that can fund a specific project, but with our rules. And if they agree on that to fund our activities, then they provide the money. Maybe they have some influence, but the main actor there and the main decision making will still be the organization who proposes the project. But that said, maybe I leave the floor to Marco, who raised his hand.
Yes, thank you. My question is about private interests, companies that could be interested in the Civic AI project because of the fact of being in a digital technology business, but at the same time, or not even strictly in digital technology business, but without the same interests as the big tech have. There are even some businesses that risk to be disrupted by the oligopoly built by big tech. So my question is that if we had already thought about a possible convergence of direct interests, because of course it's easier to have an ideal convergence of interests. So foundation or even companies that want to accompany their name to the word like democracy, rule of law, and so on. So this is like a public relation activity of funding and support. But there could even be some companies that are either external to the AI race or even threatened by the AI race. So maybe they could be interested in giving a chance to a system less predatory than the one is currently running. So I don't know if a possible line of research and action that we could conceive.
Maybe I will leave the floor to Michelangelo to answer to this.
I think to Isaac, because I have no answer.
No one wants to answer.
Okay, I take it. Yes, but yes, you can do it, but always having in mind what everybody wants. So don't forget what the other objective is. So in the moment that both your ways or both just go in the same direction, you can work together. But you have to be looking closely to the other, just in case they try to diverge or they try to use your name to diverge. So yes, you can do it, but with caution. And just to develop more on the AI, there's a problem there's basically a geopolitics problem. We don't have any AI within the European Union. We have Mistral in France, but actually is funded by America. So now the problem is just you have to choose in between the bad or the other bad. So there's room for that, but the path is narrow.
Thank you very much, Isaac. Indeed,
Thank you.
The discussion on technological sovereignty in Europe is a very hot topic recently in the European institutions. For those who don't know about that, when was it? Like a few weeks ago was launched the European tech sovereignty package by the European Commission. There is a plan supposed to strengthen the development of technologies, or in general, development of the technologies within the European continent. There is a growing market for European technologies, meaning that there is a growing sensitivity among Europeans that your data, especially the professional ones, cannot be just blindly processed by companies whose compliance with the European law is sometimes a bit opaque. Anyway, yes, as Isaac was saying, the path is really narrow, because even though Europe has some champions in the digital and generally in the AI value chain, most of it is owned by organizations or companies that are based outside of the European Union. And this is not going to change in just 1 year. So, I mean, there is a strategic choice that must be made, but it will take a lot of time if we will ever achieve this transition. I think there is the last chance for a few questions, and I don't know if anyone else in the room would like to ask some, or just has some curiosity, would like to share some thoughts on the insights, or wanted to tell us what this conversation sparked in their minds. Otherwise, I see some noise. Yeah, Cesare, please.
Cesare, I have really no question, nothing to add, but thank you to Isaac and Michelangelo, for real. Very interesting. Concerning the work of Michelangelo, I can just say so simple and so effective. Really, it's how it should be done, for real. Now it sounds really easy. And it makes me remind about how can you change the confidence toward these requests, because considering the fact they publish, people publishes things about we search for ideas on how to find things. Through your work, you can say, you can meet these people with the approach of, hey, you said it. You say that you found this kind of project, no? So it can change a bit about the approach you have, not really an approach, the human approach that can be, has always to be fair and polite, but on the confidence you have when you meet these people, because they say what this prompt answers you. The prompt is really easy. Sometimes you can go through thousands of pages in internet. You don't have the real idea of what's the sense of what they write down. But if it's said by the AI, probably you're more confident on on the people you are meeting. So it probably can be an help on the confidence, the approach you have with the guys you are going to meet. And so you probably have more confidence in requesting, and you feel more on the right place when you start the conversation. My thoughts.
No, that's correct, Cesare, because okay, you need to build your system with your own information about your organization, and that could help artificial intelligence to find sources that more aimed to your cause, your organization, or people that work inside, or I don't know, grants, foundation, etc. Okay, if you give a lot of information about your organization to LLM's model, okay, it will be very helpful and more targeting, more targeted.
Yeah, thank you very much. Other people? I mean, I know that we have been speaking about AI quite a lot. Antonio, whom you have heard at the very beginning of the webinar, his work is mostly focused on data, and especially data intelligence. Sometimes in the current debate, big data and AI look almost like the same. At least, some people speak of AI as they used to speak about data and other things in the past. I don't know if you, Antonio, would like to share some hints on, for example, what kind of data we should work on in order to find the right fundraising opportunities. Because, I mean, Michelangelo correctly said that agents can scrape the whole web and therefore find public information. And this is, of course, extremely helpful. But sometimes maybe it's also important to create high quality databases and then train agents in a more narrow way. But I don't know. I'm just going I can say, in freestyle now in order to touch the last few aspects that have not been touched yet during the conversation, but I think that the webinar was already quite complete. Antonio, I don't know if you would like to react on that.
Yeah, I deeply share this opinion since I see that there are very high speed growing in the power of the technology of the elaborations of data, but poorly growing on the checking.
I fear you got frozen for a second, probably experiencing connection issues. Can you hear us, Antonio? Oh, that's a pity. Antonio, can you hear us? No. Never mind. I'm sorry, because I am sure that Antonio had very interesting ideas on this. Anyway, if there is no further questions, then I would like to kindly thank again Isaac and Michelangelo for their extremely interesting presentations, and thank you all for staying with us until the very end of the webinar. I mean, only one person left before now. As Stefano was mentioning at the beginning, this was the fourth webinar of a series of 6. The next 2 ones will come after the summer break, and they will focus on 2 very interesting topics. The first one on digital divides. Therefore, all the different, we'll try to not criticize, but definitely to deconstruct the idea of what the digital innovation will benefit everyone, to see who is already affected negatively by digital innovation or who risks being left behind by digital innovation. And this is important for us to discuss about these topics, because otherwise we cannot speak of AI of democracy if we don't know what are the risks of implementing more technologies within the democratic debate. Whereas the last webinar will focus mostly exactly on the main topic of the campaign. So AI for democracy, AI for civic purposes, what does it really mean, what we are advocating for, and possibly also some examples of use cases that are already out there and in place. I'm very happy about today's webinar, because I think that we managed to have a very frank discussion on not only how to use the merging AI agents tools in order to signal fundraising, but because I believe that also presentation of ISA could be extremely useful for any one of us who's working in a civil society organization or in a think tank, or who's looking for European and national funding systems. I really believe that having this kind of basis, or at least an overview of what is there, then provides many people access to things that probably didn't even know about. And in general, I'm happy because I thought that this was an extremely interesting training session, not only for me. I mean, unfortunately for me, I already knew a bit of the European projects because I had to submit a few ones, but it's always good to refresh the memory and also to see different perspectives on the same topics. That said, and again, without further ado, I thank you all once again. And I invite all of you, of course, to scan the QR code to join the campaign if you didn't do it yet. I also shared the link in the chat. And in general, let's stay in touch. If you give us your contact, you will be updated in a consistent way, not only on the campaign, but also on our events, what is taking place. And we have recently launched a monthly newsletter on Civic AI that will deal exactly with the hottest topics in the AI and digital innovation sector, providing Eumans' perspective. And again, thank you so much for being with us and have a very nice evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks.